One Piece, episode 1151. Chaos erupting across the Marine fleet. After being hurled away by Workery, the Iron Giant instantly turned into a nightmare for the surrounding ships. None of the Marines had the slightest clue what this ancient machine was, and all they could do was panic as the metal titan threatened to drag their vessels under. It plunged straight into the water, pulling nearby ships down with it, and the Den Mushi embedded inside shut off like it had fainted. Vegapunk's pre-recorded message resumed for a brief moment. He seemed ready to reveal a crucial name, possibly someone tied to the mysterious D. Many fans immediately thought of Nefertari D. Lily. Now fully submerged, the Iron Giant began muttering, as if searching for someone. It kept asking where Joy Boy was, repeating the question even as it sank deeper. And honestly, it makes you wonder, were these questions meant for the present? Or were they memories echoing from 900 years ago? Joy Boy had a destiny he couldn't fulfill, like helping the fishmen, and Imu still keeps that giant straw hat, likely his. The robot clearly expected their paths to cross again. It felt Joy Boy's presence nearby, yet everything happening made no sense to it. Imagine waking up after 200 years, only to get blasted straight into the ocean seconds later. Meanwhile, the remaining Marine forces were still dealing with the monstrous boar. Just catching sight of the Gorosei was supposed to be taboo. But at this point, they had no choice, and the warrior god of justice looked far from pleased Vegapunk's livestream, then cut out entirely. Viewers everywhere were left in suspense, confused about what stopped the broadcast mid-sentence. People began fearing the worst, wondering if Vegapunk had been silenced because of the heavy truths he was revealing. In Alabasta, the citizens refused to believe that the world government would eliminate the greatest scientist of the age. Ironically, that is exactly what the government did to their king. And yet, Luffy is now being framed as the one who supposedly kidnapped Vegapunk. Meanwhile, the guy has done nothing but try to save him, and he saved Alabasta years ago. We cut to a king that isn't immediately recognizable. The chef beside him insisted that the world government would never execute a mind as brilliant as Vegapunk's, even if he had broken a few rules. It really shows how much trust, or blind faith, the government has cultivated. Leo, of course, believed what he heard instantly, while Rebecca was clearly annoyed at his gullible reaction. Back on Egghead, York received a call from the Gorosei. Even though she idolized them and feared them, the way she answered was surprisingly casual. They asked how many of the Vegapunks were still alive besides her. York checked punk records to see whose signals remained. She detected only 2. Vegapunk Lilith, the number 2 body, and Vegapunk Atlas, number 5. But this system was flawed. Stella and Edison were disconnected, yet still alive. Still, York reported what she saw. Lilith was on the Labo phase, and Atlas was at the northeastern shore. The Gorosei immediately agreed to erase the remaining versions. From Mars's perspective, Punk Records was designed to keep updating and evolving even after Stella's death, and thanks to York, they could now claim that knowledge for themselves. To them, the rest of the Vegapunks were nothing more than unpredictable loose threads. This entire event almost feels like a 3-way division of spoils. Dory, Brogy, and Luffy cheerfully leaped aboard the Elbaf ship. Bonnie finally called Luffy by his actual name instead of Straw Hat, which even he seemed surprised by. Frankie and Sanji admired the enormous ship, while Luffy started wondering where the rest of his crew ended up. 2 young vice admirals rallied their forces, yelling at their marines not to let the Straw Hats escape when they had so many warships available, but sheer numbers didn't matter, and the giant's strength was overwhelming. Marines panicked, worried that their commanding officers wouldn't survive after what they had just witnessed. Vice Admiral Dahl, Vice Admiral Bluegrass, and even the mechanical sea beast weapon had all been transformed into tiny children. Bluegrass hated being stuck in such a cute form, but even she had to admit that Bonnie's power was unbelievably frightening. Even with its drawbacks, the Toshi no Mi remains one of the most versatile abilities in the series. Bonnie herself is still only 12, and we clearly haven't witnessed the full range of what this age-bending power can do. Though that's about to change. While gripping a pistol, she taunted the Marine officers chasing her, fully aware of the punishment they'd face for letting her slip away. And honestly, if even Nustro couldn't take her down, no ordinary Marine is going to manage it. Kashi was hauled back onto the Elbaf ship after getting worked over by Vice Admiral Dal Oimo, was thrilled to see yet another of their giant brothers, and the reunion brightened the mood on deck. Sanji updated Nami through the transponder snail, telling her that their group had already set off. She assured him they'd follow right behind. Edison's guidance systems would get them to the water safely, though with Nusjuro rising into view, Nami suspected they might need a bit of help with the landing Danji. Fired up as ever, promised he'd protect Nami, Robin, and Lilith above all else. He even vowed that he'd dive in and pull them out personally if their vessel went under, a comment that irritated Usopp to no end, since everyone except him seemed to be the priority. Frankie stepped in, assuring them he'd keep the ship intact, which only made Usopp grumble louder. Suddenly, something blasted toward the giant's vessel, the Itza-maid-like form of St. Marcus Mars. Sanji clenched his jaw as the elder approached, and Bonnie immediately snapped to attention. This was the third monstrous elder she had faced with her own eyes. Meanwhile, Luffy was already bonding with the giant's chef. The cook had been warned about Luffy's unstoppable appetite and had prepared mountains of food ahead of time. Only to watch it all vanish in seconds, Luffy apologized, explaining he needed the calories to crank up Gear 5 again and told the chef to cook more later. The giant burst into laughter at how casually he said it. Mars unleashed a devastating flame beam. The giants leapt into action, forming a fiery shield to protect the smaller crew members, but even so, the blaze spread outward and threatened to reach their sails. The two shield-bearing warriors were introduced as Bjorn and Sig, names drawn from Norse legend, Bjorn Ironside, a famed Viking leader, and Sigyn, Loki's steadfast wife. Whether Sig has any connection to Loki's lineage remains to be seen, though I doubt it. The Marines below were baffled to see a massive flaming bird seemingly on their side. Danji thanked the burning giants for their protection, while Bonnie urged the group to get Stella and Kuma's body out of danger. Immediately, Atlas volunteered to carry them. Dory and Brogy groaned as yet another monstrous elder joined the fight. The frustrating part was that they couldn't simply run. This one had wings and could pursue them endlessly. Mars felt the same irritation and announced that none of the pirates would be escaping today. That's when Frankie noticed something strange. The ocean itself began pulsing as if bouncing to a rhythm. Marines panicked, thinking another earthquake was erupting. Luffy, meanwhile, was delighted, since the timing lined up perfectly with his now full stomach. As the sea continued trembling like a giant trampoline, Marines wondered whether Vegapunk's warnings about rising water levels were actually coming true, but Mars realized what the phenomenon was and shifted his focus. Luffy spotted Bonnie and shouted happily to her. Shocked, she exclaimed, "Nika!" once again, though Luffy still had no clue what she meant. Bonnie had gone through so many names for him at this point that even she looked confused. Dory and Brogy, on the other hand, were dancing joyfully to the drums of liberation. Though Brogy reminded Dory that one of them needed to stop celebrating long enough to handle the spreading fire, Luffy invited Bonnie to come help him clean up the troublemakers. She doubted she could keep pace with him, but Luffy, even without understanding her devil fruit, believed she could. Hearing that confidence, she remembered what he told her earlier. This form is what he looks like when he's completely free. With that in mind, Bonnie unleashed the power of a distorted future. While Kuma's real body remained motionless, we were shown the memory of the promise he once made to Ginny. Bonnie's chosen future was clear, one where she is finally free, and, suddenly, there were two Nikas, two sets of drums, two liberators, and Luffy couldn't be happier. Honestly, neither could I. The Marines had no clue what they were witnessing. Even Mars lost his usual confidence as Luffy prepared to take on yet another elder. At this point, the only one he hasn't thrown hands with is Nusjuro Bonnie, geared up for battle beside him. Elsewhere, the drums of liberation were producing an effect that Warkery and Jupiter clearly despised. Something was off, dangerously off, and they urgently needed to move. It's worth remembering the Iron Giant's rampage 2 centuries ago wasn't actually defeated, it simply powered down mid-battle. But now that Joy Boy's presence has returned, that ancient fight is resuming where it left off. And now, there are 2 Joy Boy-like forces in play. The Iron Giant's confusion earlier, asking why Joy Boy kept coming and going, might hint that Luffy's predecessor maintained the Nika form in a far more stable, permanent way.